You're wasting your life right now. Not because you're watching this video, because of something much deeper. Look around you. Everyone's scrolling, everyone's buying, everyone's chasing the next promotion, the next relationship, the next purchase that will finally make them happy. They think they're living, but they're not. They're distracted. Distracted by things that don't matter. Distracted from the vastness of existence itself. Right now, at this very moment, you have a finite amount of time on Earth. Around 80 years at most, maybe less. So each day matters. And what are you doing with this miracle? You're worried about your Instagram likes. You're stressed about your bank account. You're obsessing over what people think of your outfit. You're trading the profound for the trivial, the eternal for the temporary, the infinite for the insignificant. But here's what makes this even more tragic. You don't even realize you're doing it. Arthur Schopenhauer understood this better than most, a philosopher who refused to accept easy answers about human nature. While others wrote about happiness and success, Schopenhauer looked deeper. He studied the mechanics of human suffering. He questioned why we chase things that never truly satisfy us. And what he discovered changed everything we thought we knew about living. He saw that behind every purchase, every goal, every desire for status and recognition, there's something else pulling the strings. He called it the will. A blind, unconscious force that keeps you wanting, keeps you dissatisfied, keeps you running after shadows while life passes you by. And the most devastating part? This force doesn't care about the beauty of existence. It doesn't care about the mystery of consciousness. It doesn't care about the precious few years you have on this earth. All it cares about is keeping you distracted, keeping you wanting, keeping you too busy chasing things that ultimately mean nothing. But what if you could see through this? What if you could step back and witness the vastness of what it means to be alive? What if you could stop wasting your life and finally start living it? Remember yesterday. Were you happy, completely, genuinely satisfied with your life as it was? Or were you waiting for something, planning something, hoping for something to change? If you're honest, and most people can't be honest about this, you were probably waiting. We're always waiting, waiting for the weekend, waiting for the promotion, waiting for the right person, waiting for the next thing that will finally make everything okay. Think about the last time you really wanted something. Maybe it was a job, a relationship, a car, a vacation, something that consumed your thoughts for weeks, maybe months. You told yourself, when I get this, I'll be happy. When I achieve this, everything will be different. And then you got it. For a moment, maybe a day, maybe a week, you felt satisfied, complete, like you had finally arrived. But then, what happened? The feeling faded, and slowly, quietly, another want crept in, another goal, another, if only I had this moment. This is what Schopenhauer called the pendulum of human existence, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. On one side of this pendulum, wanting, craving, that restless feeling that something is missing from your life, the anxiety, the dissatisfaction, the constant sense that happiness is just one purchase, one achievement, one relationship away. On the other side, temporary satisfaction, that brief moment when you get what you wanted. But it never lasts, and when it fades, you don't return to peace. You swing to the other extreme, boredom, emptiness, the terrible realization that getting what you wanted didn't change anything fundamental about your life. And so the cycle begins again. A new want, a new goal, a new promise that this time will be different. Most people spend their entire lives on this pendulum, swinging back and forth, never questioning why the satisfaction never lasts, never asking why they can never just be. Look at your own life honestly. When was the last time you felt truly content? Not excited about something coming, not satisfied after achieving something, but genuinely at peace with what is. You probably can't remember, because our entire culture is designed to keep you swinging. Social media shows you what you don't have. Advertising tells you what you need. Your career demands constant growth, constant ambition. Even your relationships often become about what the other person can give you. We've built a world that profits from your dissatisfaction, that needs you to always want more, always feel incomplete. But here's what makes this truly tragic. We think this restlessness is normal. We think wanting is living. We mistake the pendulum for progress. The most successful people, you know, they're often the most trapped. They've turned their restlessness into an art form. They've made careers out of never being satisfied, and we celebrate them for it. We don't realize that every time we swing from want to satisfaction to boredom, we're actually moving further away from something profound, something that Schopenhauer understood, but most people never discover. The possibility of stepping off the pendulum entirely. Think about a child playing, really playing, lost in their imagination, completely absorbed in the moment. They're not trying to get somewhere or achieve something. They're simply present with what is. We had that once, that ability to be completely here without needing anywhere else to be better. Because what if the problem isn't that you're not getting what you want? What if the problem is the wanting itself? What if there's something deeper driving this endless cycle, something you've never seen clearly because you've been too busy swinging? There's a story Schopenhauer used to tell. A man spends his entire life climbing a mountain. Every day he wakes up and climbs higher. He tells himself he's getting somewhere important. He believes that at the top he'll find what he's looking for. But the mountain has no top, and the man never realizes he's walking on a treadmill, the force that keeps him climbing. That's what Schopenhauer called the will. Here's what he discovered that changes everything. You are not the author of your desires. You think you are. You think when you want something, when you crave something, when you feel that familiar pull toward a goal or a person or an experience, that it's coming from you, from some authentic part of your personality. But it's not. There's a force operating beneath your consciousness. Schopenhauer called it the will to live. It's not personal, it's not individual. It moves through every human being like an invisible current. This force has one purpose: to perpetuate itself, to continue existing, to keep the cycle of wanting and striving alive. And it uses you to do it. Every time you feel dissatisfied with your life, that's the will pushing you to want more. Every time you achieve something and still feel empty, that's the will ensuring you never rest. Every time you think, if only I had this one thing, that's the will speaking through you. Here's the unsettling part. Most of your major life decisions aren't really your decisions at all. You think you chose your career because it aligned with your values. But what if you chose it because the will needed you to strive, to compete, to never be satisfied with where you are? You think you want that relationship because you found someone special. But what if the will is just using your loneliness to ensure you keep seeking, keep wanting, keep the cycle alive? You think you want success because you have ambition, but what if ambition is just the will's way of making sure you never experience true contentment? This doesn't mean your feelings aren't real. They are, but they're not necessarily yours in the way you think they are. The will is brilliant at making its agenda feel like your agenda. It convinces you that what it wants is what you want, that its restlessness is your authentic desire for growth. Consider how you make decisions. Do you sit quietly and choose from a place of peace? Or do you feel driven, compelled, unable to stop wanting what you want? Most people experience the latter. They feel pushed toward their desires, not freely choosing them. The wanting feels urgent, necessary, almost like survival. But Schopenhauer saw through this deception. He realized that most human suffering comes from being unconsciously driven by this force. We suffer not because life is hard, but because we're constantly being pushed to want what we don't have. The will operates through every aspect of human experience. It drives our sexual desires, our ambitions, our need for recognition, our fear of death. It's why we can't sit still, why we can't be satisfied, why even our greatest achievements feel hollow after a while. The tragic part: we usually only recognize this pattern when we're old. When we look back at our lives and wonder why nothing we achieved ever felt like enough. Why every goal we reached just led to another goal. Why happiness always seemed to be just around the corner, but never where we were standing. But what if you could see it now? What if you could recognize when the will is operating through you versus when you're making genuinely conscious choices? What if you could step back and watch this force at work instead of being carried away by it? Walk into any place with people around, count how many people are staring at screens, count how many are scrolling, swiping, consuming content designed to make them want something they didn't want 5 minutes ago. Now count how many are simply sitting, simply being present with their coffee, their thoughts, their immediate experience. The ratio will tell you everything you need to know about the world we've built. The worst part isn't that this force exists. The worst part is how perfectly our world is designed to hide it from you. Think about your average day. You wake up and immediately check your phone. Before you're even fully conscious, you're already being shown what you don't have, what you should want, what you should buy. You scroll through lives that look more exciting than yours, bodies that look better than yours, achievements that make your accomplishments seem small. By the time you've had your coffee, the will has already been activated. You're already wanting something you didn't want 10 minutes ago. This isn't an accident. Our entire economic system depends on your dissatisfaction. If you were truly content with what you have, if you stopped wanting more, the whole structure would collapse. So we've built a machine designed to keep you wanting. Advertising doesn't just sell products, it sells the feeling that you're incomplete without them. Social media doesn't just connect people, it makes you constantly compare your life to others. Even our definition of success has become a trap. We measure worth by accumulation, by growth, by always having more than you had before. You're told that ambition is virtue, that wanting more means you're driven, focused, alive. Anyone who questions this is labeled lazy, unmotivated, settling for less. But what if ambition is just the will wearing a respectable mask? Look at the most successful people you know. Really look at them. Are they happy? Are they at peace? Or are they just better at the game of wanting and achieving? Most successful people are the most driven by the will. They've made careers out of never being satisfied. They've turned their inability to rest into productivity, their restlessness into achievement. And we celebrate them for it. We make them our heroes. We study their habits, read their books, try to become more like them. But Schopenhauer would ask, what are they actually successful at? Being driven by an unconscious force, never finding peace, training others to be as restless as they are? The deception goes deeper than individual success stories. We've created entire industries around managing the symptoms of will-driven living without ever addressing the cause. Self-help tells you how to get what you want more efficiently. Therapy helps you process the disappointment when getting what you wanted didn't make you happy. Wellness teaches you how to cope with the stress of constantly striving, but none of these approaches question the fundamental assumption that wanting itself is the problem. Instead, they all promise to help you want better, want smarter, want more effectively. Even spirituality has been co-opted. Meditation becomes about performance. Mindfulness becomes about productivity. Ancient wisdom gets packaged into apps that promise to make you calmer so you can achieve more. The system has learned to absorb everything that might wake you up and turn it into another product to consume. Notice how we've even gamified personal growth, meditation streaks, productivity hacks, life optimization. We've turned the path to freedom into another competition, another way to feel inadequate. This is why breaking free feels so difficult. It's not just about changing your personal habits, it's about seeing through a deception that surrounds you completely. Every message you receive, every story you're told about what makes life worth living, every example of success you're shown, it all points in the same direction. More, better, next. The great deception isn't that any of these things are inherently bad. It's that they've become the only story we know how to tell about human existence. But what if there was another story? What if there was a way of being that didn't depend on always wanting what you don't have? Something strange happened to me last week. I was walking past a tree, nothing special, just an ordinary tree on an ordinary street, and suddenly I stopped. Not because I decided to stop, but because something in me became completely still. For maybe 30 seconds, I wasn't thinking about where I was going or what I needed to do. I wasn't wanting anything or avoiding anything. I was just there, present with this tree, with the light filtering through its leaves, with the simple fact of being alive in that moment. And in that 30 seconds, I wasn't suffering at all. Schopenhauer didn't just diagnose the problem, he found the cure. And it's not what you might expect. He discovered that there are moments when the will loses its grip on you, moments when you step outside the cycle of wanting and experiencing something completely different. These moments happen more often than you realize. You've probably experienced them without knowing what they were. Have you ever stood before a sunset and felt time stop? Not because you wanted to capture it or share it, but because something in you became completely still. Have you ever listened to music and felt yourself dissolve into the sound? Not thinking about anything, not wanting anything, just being. Have you ever looked at someone you love, really looked at them, and felt a compassion so complete that for a moment your own problems disappeared entirely? These are what Schopenhauer called moments of aesthetic contemplation. When you become so absorbed in beauty, in truth, in the present moment, that the will temporarily releases its hold. In these moments, you're not wanting anything. You're not trying to get somewhere or be someone. You're simply witnessing, simply present. And here's what's remarkable. In those moments, you're not suffering at all. You're not bored either. You're in a third state that most people rarely experience, pure awareness without desire. This is what Schopenhauer pointed to as authentic living. Not the satisfaction of desires, but the temporary transcendence of desire itself. But he found something even more profound than aesthetic moments. He discovered that the deepest escape from the will comes through genuine compassion. When you truly see another person's suffering, not as different from your own, but as the same suffering expressing itself through a different form, something shifts. You realize that the person who cut you off in traffic is driven by the same restless force that drives you. The co-worker who annoys you is struggling with the same fundamental dissatisfaction. The politician you hate is caught in the same cycle of wanting and striving. This recognition doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it reveals something profound. We are all prisoners of the same force. We are all suffering from the same fundamental condition. And in that recognition, something miraculous happens. The boundaries between self and other begin to dissolve. Your individual wants become less important. Your personal suffering becomes part of a larger understanding. Schopenhauer called this the foundation of all genuine morality. Not rules imposed from outside, but a natural compassion that arises when you see through the illusion of separation. But he went even further. He spoke of rare individuals who learned to deny the will entirely, who chose not to participate in the cycle of wanting and striving at all. These weren't people who became passive or gave up on life. They were people who found a way of being that didn't depend on getting what they wanted or avoiding what they didn't want. They lived, but they didn't grasp. They acted, but without attachment to outcomes. They experienced life fully while remaining fundamentally free from its compulsions. Art can be a doorway to this state. When you encounter true beauty, in music, in nature, in poetry, you momentarily forget yourself. You become the beauty you're witnessing. The will stops its endless pushing and pulling. Most of us won't reach this level of freedom, but we can learn to recognize when we're being driven by the will versus when we're making conscious choices. We can cultivate those moments of aesthetic contemplation. We can practice genuine compassion. We can learn to step back and witness our desires instead of being consumed by them. The path isn't about achieving some permanent state of enlightenment. It's about remembering again and again that you are not your wants. You are not your restlessness. You are the awareness that can observe these things. And in that remembering, something shifts. The grip loosens. The cycle slows down. And occasionally, for precious moments, you step off the pendulum entirely and remember what it feels like to simply be alive without needing anything to be different. Here's what nobody tells you about waking up. It's not a one-time event. You don't suddenly see through the illusion and remain enlightened forever. You wake up, fall back asleep, and wake up again, sometimes dozens of times in a single day. The work isn't about achieving some permanent state of awareness. It's about catching yourself more quickly when you slip back into unconsciousness. So how do you actually live this? How do you apply Schopenhauer's insights in a world designed to keep you unconscious? First, you learn to recognize the signs that you're being driven by the will rather than making conscious choices. That restless feeling when you scroll social media, that's the will feeding on comparison and inadequacy. That constant need to check your phone, that's the will creating artificial urgency to keep you from being present. That voice that says you need to achieve more, buy more, become more, that's the will disguised as ambition. The moment you recognize these patterns, something changes. You can't unsee them once you've seen them clearly. You start to notice how advertising targets your insecurities, how social media profits from your dissatisfaction, how our culture of constant growth feeds on your inability to be content with what is. But recognition is just the beginning. The real work is learning to live differently. Start with small moments of aesthetic contemplation. When you see something beautiful, don't immediately reach for your phone to capture it. Just look. Really look. Let yourself be absorbed by it completely. When you listen to music, occasionally do nothing else. Don't multitask. Don't think about other things. Let yourself dissolve into the sound. Practice genuine compassion by remembering that everyone is struggling with the same fundamental condition you are. The difficult people in your life aren't your enemies. They're fellow prisoners of the same force that drives you. Learn to sit with discomfort without immediately trying to fix it, change it, or escape from it. Most of our unconscious behavior comes from the inability to be present with what we don't like. Question your wants before acting on them. Ask yourself, is this desire coming from a genuine need, or is it the will creating artificial urgency? Most importantly, cultivate moments of being rather than doing. In our productivity-obsessed culture, simply existing without purpose feels revolutionary. But it's in these moments that you remember who you are beneath all the wanting and striving. You remember what it feels like to be alive without needing life to be anything other than what it is. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on goals. It means choosing your actions from awareness rather than compulsion. It means pursuing things because they align with your deepest values, not because you can't stop wanting them. Watch how often you say "I need" when you really mean "I want." Notice how your language reveals the will operating through you. Pay attention to the quality of your desires. Some wants feel desperate, urgent, like you'll die without them. Others feel more spacious, more choiceful. Learn to distinguish between the two. Practice what Schopenhauer called objectivity, the ability to see situations without immediately making them about your personal wants and fears. When something frustrating happens, try to observe it as you would observe weather. Interesting, but not personal. Schopenhauer's message isn't that life is meaningless. It's that the meaning we usually assign to life, endless achievement, constant growth, perpetual satisfaction, is the very thing that keeps us from experiencing its true depth. The irony is profound. The more you stop chasing happiness, the more present you become to the beauty that's already here. The more you stop trying to improve your life, the more you appreciate the miracle of existence itself. This isn't easy work. You're swimming against the current of an entire culture built on unconscious wanting, but every moment of awareness matters. Every time you choose presence over compulsion, you're living authentically. And occasionally, if you're very still and very present, you might experience what Schopenhauer pointed toward. A way of being that doesn't depend on getting what you want or avoiding what you don't want. A life that isn't wasted because it isn't spent chasing shadows. A life that recognizes the profound gift of simply being conscious in an incomprehensible universe. That's not wasting your life, that's finally beginning to live it. The path forward isn't about perfection, it's about awareness. It's about catching yourself in the act of unconscious wanting and gently, without judgment, returning to presence. It's about remembering that you are not your desires. You are the space in which desires arise and pass away. And in that remembering, life becomes not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. If this perspective resonates with you, if these ideas challenge how you think about existence and meaning, I'd love to know in the comments. Hit the like button if this video made you see something differently about your own life, and subscribe if you want to explore more philosophical ideas that cut through the noise of our distracted world. Because in a culture designed to keep you unconscious, every moment of genuine awareness is an act of rebellion. Feeling when you scroll social media, that's the will feeding on comparison and inadequacy. That constant need to check your phone, that's the will creating artificial urgency to keep you from being present. That voice that says you need to achieve more, buy more, become more, that's the will disguised as ambition. The moment you recognize these patterns, something changes. You can't unsee them once you've seen them clearly. You start to notice how advertising targets your insecurities, how social media profits from your dissatisfaction, how our culture of constant growth feeds on your inability to be content with what is. But recognition is just the beginning. The real work is learning to live differently. Start with small moments of aesthetic contemplation. When you see something beautiful, don't immediately reach for your phone to capture it. Just look, really look. Let yourself be absorbed by it completely. When you listen to music, occasionally do nothing else. Don't multitask. Don't think about other things. Let yourself dissolve into the sound. Practice genuine compassion by remembering that everyone is struggling with the same fundamental condition you are. The difficult people in your life aren't your enemies. They're fellow prisoners of the same force that drives you. Learn to sit with discomfort without immediately trying to fix it, change it, or escape from it. Most of our unconscious behavior comes from the inability to be present with what we don't like. Question your wants before acting on them. Ask yourself, is this desire coming from a genuine need, or is it the will creating artificial urgency? Most importantly, cultivate moments of being rather than doing. In our productivity-obsessed culture, simply existing without purpose feels revolutionary. But it's in these moments that you remember who you are beneath all the wanting and striving. You remember what it feels like to be alive without needing life to be anything other than what it is. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on goals. It means choosing your actions from awareness rather than compulsion. It means pursuing things because they align with your deepest values, not because you can't stop wanting them. Schopenhauer's message isn't that life is meaningless. It's that the meaning we usually assign to life, endless achievement, constant growth, perpetual satisfaction, is the very thing that keeps us from experiencing its true depth. The irony is profound. The more you stop chasing happiness, the more present you become to the beauty that's already here. The more you stop trying to improve your life, the more you appreciate the miracle of existence itself. This isn't easy work. You're swimming against the current of an entire culture built on unconscious wanting. But every moment of awareness matters. Every time you choose presence over compulsion, you're living authentically. And occasionally, if you're very still and very present, you might experience what Schopenhauer pointed toward, a way of being that doesn't depend on getting what you want or avoiding what you don't want. A life that isn't wasted because it isn't spent chasing shadows. A life that recognizes the profound gift of simply being conscious in an incomprehensible universe. That's not wasting your life, that's finally beginning to live it. If this perspective resonates with you, If these ideas challenge how you think about existence and meaning, I'd love to know in the comments. Hit the like button if this video made you see something differently about your own life, and subscribe if you want to explore more philosophical ideas that cut through the noise of our distracted world. Because in a culture designed to keep you unconscious, every moment of genuine awareness is an act of rebellion.